So for those of you who didn't know anything about food design, welcome to the food design world with Emily. So, after Emily, we move with Ido Garini, and Ido is traveling non-stop. I think we had 120 mails, and each we are in a different city. So I don't know where from you are now. Ido Garini is going to share his 400 seconds. So what do you need? This or this? Ready?
No. Okay, so my name is Ido Garini, and I have a studio called Studio Appetit, and I'm an eating designer. So by qualification, I spent 4 years at university, and I'm a product designer. But I spent more than 10 years in restaurant, and I learned about food and culinary stuff. Then I continued my education in the French Culinary Institute, and I opened my studio who does eating design. So we do everything from food, we design for food, we design food spaces, but we also do all kinds of experiences with food. And if we talk about food design, first of all, I think, or what I do is called eating design, we need to talk about eating and what is eating. So if we think about it, from the dawn of mankind eats. But usually it used to be just potatoes, just eating for survival. But we've come a really long way from just eating. Food has a really big significance now in our life, a social significance, and we do a lot with it. In the ancient Roman Empire, eating food was, in talking about it, it was frowned upon. And if you wanted to dismiss the former emperor, you would talk about his great eating habits. But today we have stuff like food porn, and we say, oh, I ate a test of Blumenthal, and I do have reservations for tomorrow. So that's what we do today. So I wanted to tell you how I see eating. For me, eating is a black box. And the black box theory is actually a theory about a situation where you have input and you have output, but you don't know what's happening inside. And the best way that I was explained is, let's say you have an orange, and here, and then on the other side, you put an orange inside the box, and you get an orange from the other side, and you're not sure what's happening inside. You can only assume. Maybe there's a little man inside that's just throwing all the oranges out, and maybe it's full of oranges, and every time you put one in, you get another one on the other side. And for me, eating is the same, because we put food inside our mouths, and then in return we get satisfaction, we get emotion, we get all kinds of different feelings just from eating. So I opened my appetizing lab, and that's what I do in the appetizing lab. I constantly check why we eat the way we eat, and find new way to discover it. Like the project I showed here was about food and sex, which is a very nice research. So appetizing is a term that we said, well, we make appetizing stuff, and appetite is such a strong word. So we call the process of making appetizing stuff appetizing. So this is the definition, this is how we work by in the studio, and I'm going to show you 2 projects that actually show the stuff we do. So the first one is called Eating Reflections. It was recently showed in Berlin and in Amsterdam, and we asked people, what do you look like when you eat? Because coming to think about it, I don't know how I look like when I eat. We have all kinds of notions and gestures about eating, but we don't actually know how we look like when we eat. And most of us don't want to know. So what we did, we created these eating stations, which is actually, it's a mirror, and it's hanged on the wall. And people were invited to eat in front of the mirror and actually examine the way we eat. It's interesting. So we used it in the studio also to see how our designs look when we use them, because basically when you have a cup, you design it to hold water, to look good, but you don't know how it looks when you use it. So we made different kind of plates for different kinds of food, because different foods are eaten in a different way. And the way you would eat a banana, very X-rated, is very different than the way you'll eat a salad, which is very embarrassing, or rice. We offered the food in 3 stations in the gallery, where in the first one we served a skewer, and a skewer is a whole game of opening your mouth and being careful from the edge of it and really eating it. And then in the middle we had like a jaw-dropping sandwich that really had to open your whole mouth, and that's very, very intimidating for some people. And then in the third one, we serve a strawberry. And eating a strawberry is like it's a whole thing, because you don't just eat a strawberry. Strawberry is really well designed, because they did a really good job with that thing. So eating a strawberry is really fun, and it's really sexy, so you see people really having fun seducing themselves in front of the mirror. Surprise! So this is the second project, and I was thinking about, there's only two ways that I see to surprise someone. You can show them something that you've never seen before, but a better surprise is to take something that you already know and do it in a completely different way. So I was commissioned to do a project in Brooklyn in New Year's 2 years ago. And they said, do something with food, edible, what you do, I don't know, eat. And I said, cool, so we have New Year's, and I have like an equation. We have champagne, we have kids, and we have midnight. So what's an eating design or an eating installation involving these factors? So we created a space, and in the space we're supposed to be around 500 people. So we created these pillars that there are pedestals that's coming from the ground and lights from the top, and we put it completely dark when the event was happening, and we just had light going in between. And in there we placed the food. So we're talking about champagne. So we made champagne jello. So this is champagne jello with berries. It looks very nice when it's lit from the inside. The pedestals were about this high, and people were invited to come in. We had a nice velvet rope spread around. People in the beginning were brought in couples, and were told to eat it without their hands. So we have midnight, we have kiss, and we have champagne. So this is what's kind of like recreating. I said, yeah, I have an experience. We're drinking champagne at midnight and we're kissing. So redefining the act. Later on in the night, when people drank too much in the party, it became much more interesting. And I can tell you, this night was eating like 5 different people. It was kind of like, we allowed like threesomes and more, depending on what people like. But for me, this is what really shows what like redefining an experience is. So this was just examples of the work of the studio does. I'll just leave you with a thought. This is something that I serve in some of the meals I do, which is fruit, it's gooseberries covered with real gold. And I invite people to eat something that doesn't seem edible. Try to experiment with food, because we eat all the day, so why not make it interesting? And you can visit our website.
You shut down this mic. Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Ido Garini. So we'll move to the